Hello and welcome. I'm Ari Lax, and tonight we are going to be taking a look at the Players Championship winning Modern list. This is Joe Lissette's Black-Green Tron list. This is kind of interesting because Tron's a deck that dates back to the first year of Modern, with Charles Gindy winning a Magic Online PTQ with it. But this specific list has been enabled by a few key additions over the last year. Namely Collective Brutality and Blossoming Marsh. So, one of the reasons Tron has always been green-red, well, the green cards are the things that let you get the lands, great, and the red just came from this easy splash via Grove of the Burn Willows. So you had painless mana to fix for your Pyroclasms. And you don't need a ton of lands to splash because of Chromatic Star, Chromatic Sphere, but you do want the painless aspect of it. And none of the other colors really offered that, except for white via Razorverge Thicket, which is a little worse than Grow with Burn Willows, but still good. And, you know, we did see Tom Ross winning with Green-White Tron recently, and with Kaladesh, you get the enemy fast lands that allow the Tron deck to expand into green-blue or green-black for its interaction. And why are we black? And the answer for that is Collective Brutality. Traditionally, Tron has had issues with Burn and Infect. And Collective Brutality is one of the best cards against both of those decks. Killing a creature, taking out a card from hand against both decks is huge, and the Drain 2 is perfect against Burn. And you know, that kind of changes a little bit of the dynamic of this deck against worse matchups. You lose Pyroclasm, but Pyroclasm was, realistically, looking at the decks that Pyroclasm was good against, you don't see a lot of, like, Geist of St. Traft anymore, you don't see a lot of tokens anymore, and Affinity is definitely on the downswing, so that card has gotten a lot worse. And again, this is the reason why you see Tom Ross having moved to green-white, Joe moved to green-black for, you know, not Path to Exile, but a different card. Beyond that, we have a pretty stock Tron list. We have only 2 Relic of Progenitus, which is a little interesting in a heavier dredge field. I think I'd want a 3rd, but that number is not huge. We're leaning towards Ugin the Spirit Dragon over the full complement of Oblivion Stones, and World Breakers over Wormcoil Engines, which I like because it really hammers home the mana denial aspect of this deck against certain things like combo. In terms of non-Tron mana, obviously, of the 12. There's no second Ghost Quarter. Joe is not expecting that many mirrors. You have 1 Llanowar Waste, which is very specifically so that you can tutor up an untapped green or black source, or untapped green-black source specifically, after hitting 3 lands for Blooming Marsh being tapped. And then a Sanctum of Ugin to find your big whammies once you start casting stuff. Also worth noting that World Breaker is a card that Sanctum of Ugin pushes because Sanctum makes you want something that costs 7 as opposed to Wormcoil Engine 6. Moving to the sideboard, we have our Dredge Hate Complement, which is, you know, Ravenous Trap is the best card against Dredge. Just, you know, aside from shutting out their graveyard completely, this just sets them back so far and takes out so many of their resources without any real commitment. We have Nature's Claims, just random things, Blood Moons, artifacts, and I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that Nature's Claim kills, and it's usually just a full complement in the Tron sideboard. Also good at hitting Eidolon of the Great Revel and your own artifacts in that matchup. Some Thragtusk, both as life gain and as a threat that you can cast through Blood Moon, through Mana Denial. Warping Whale just does a bit of everything. Takes out creatures against Infect, counters combo decks, sorceries in specific instances, counters stuff like Sylvan Scrying and Mirrors, counters Crumble to Dust when that's relevant. You've got Engineered Explosives to take out the 1-cost creatures of the Death Shadow deck, which is something I really like in the sideboard. One of the things is that Collective Brutality in that sort of creature combo area doesn't really hit the Death Shadow deck very well. So you do have a dedicated hate card in Engineered Explosives that you can actually get up to 3 or potentially even 4 via Chromatic Sphere when you need it to, in certain long games like against Lantern or whatever. And then another basic forest. Sometimes you just want to. There's not a lot to talk about beyond the sort of new cards because this is still Tron. It's still the same deck as always. But I think that Joe hit on some really neat new additions that the last two sets have enabled, and I'm excited to give them a whirl.